Today, we're opening up a conversation that is often unspoken, a topic that sits at the very heart of masculinity and social well-being. The profound and silent challenges men face. From a very young age, men are taught a rigid lesson: boys don't cry. We hear that men don't speak on their feelings and are often raised to believe that we need to deal with all the pressures and emotions completely on our own. Society places immense and often conflicting expectations on men. We are seen as the backbone of society, expected to be brave, strong, industrious, the provider, the protector, and culturally aware, all while suppressing our emotions. But imagine the weight of those expectations when, as men, you generally don't get to tell your story. The truth is authentic. Conversations around men's experiences, their struggles, and their triumphs are often drowned out, overshadowed, or simply go untold. These are powerful stigmas linked to men speaking on their emotions, their mental health, or their vulnerabilities, as it is often perceived as a weakness. This deeply ingrained societal pressure is a major reason why over 80% of men globally won't talk to anyone about their mental health. This culture of silence, the suffocating embrace, leads to severe consequences. We see isolation, personal turmoil, emotional dysregulation, and stagnation of personal growth. It can contribute to compulsive and risky behavior, addiction, and even crime. Consider the stark reality. In South Africa, men are 42% more likely to commit suicide than women. Today, we delve into the suffocating pressures, just like the ones faced by Luvuyo, a man who navigates childhood traumas, struggles with self-worth, and battles depression silently, fearing the stigma of appearing weak or being abandoned. Because when men feel isolated in their struggles and miss out on vulnerable support networks, the impact is felt not just personally, but across families and society. Join us as we challenge our outdated narrative of man up and instead advocate for every man to speak up and break the stigma. This is Every Man's Secret Diary, and we're here to give every man a voice, fostering dialogue, understanding, and mental wealth. Today on the show, I am blessed to have my close friend, Gao Maribe. Mr. Maribe, welcome. Thank you very much. I was actually looking at your bio, your LinkedIn bio, and something caught my eye that was very interesting. It was a breakdown of your time. 70% of your time is spent with your girls and wife and family. 20% is on ancillary activity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
20% of the rest of your time is focused on, I think, AI technologies and the wonders of the world, something along those lines.
Yeah.
You've got it down to
yeah.
the T.
Absolutely, man. And that's outside of work, right? Like, so as soon as I close the laptop, there are a couple of things that I dedicate my time to, and families by far that I try to keep it the biggest one.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you can give us a little bit more about your family, how many kids you got?
Yeah. I mean, I can give you a breakdown for those that don't know. So, Gao is the name I go by because my full name is too long. Come
What's your full name,
from
man?
Gaonga.
It's not long.
So it means you don't give up on God.
Beautiful. Nice. I did not know that. And who said it's too long?
No, it's too long, man. Like when you give it to anyone, it's a great conversation starter, right? Like, but I had difficulty in grade 1 and 2, just like spelling my name for marks. What Temba manade, like you just write Temba and you're getting 5 out of 5. So first of all, it's a great conversation starter, and there's a spelling error there, so it's written with a Y.
What's spelled wrong?
My name, so it's spelled with a Y, and it then in Tswana it means no one marries for you, so you marry for yourself, which takes away the whole meaning with just Y as opposed to G.
Okay.
So it's a
Okay.
great conversation starter, but I just go by Kha. I just tell everyone every other letter is silent.
Yes.
So I'm from the Free State, born and bred,
Mm,
in a town called Tabanchu. So anyone that's watched JC Dengue will know there's a place
mm,
called Tabanchu in South Africa. And that's where I went to school. Except I did my high school in a farm school, to Esprit. Spent, I would say, a pretty large part of my life was there up until 20, and then I went to the University of the Free State for my, you know, tertiary life, and I spent another 10 years there, going all the way from my undergrad to my PhD.
yeah, on
And
a PhD.
yeah, bro, like I'm surprised you don't know, but that's fine. It happens.
I did know that. I'm just acting. I know. A man's educated. Black man, no PhD. We need to celebrate that. I'm trying to celebrate that for you, man.
Yeah. Actually, the crazy thing is when I where we met, I joined the company immediately after my PhD. Like it was literally like
Wow. Okay.
2 months,
Okay.
3 months after,
Right. Okay.
and that's where I met my wife, the University of the Free State. Met her there. Our relationship went from just groupie love to heavily in
Mm,
love to marriage to all
mm.
the way to 2 kids. So we
Wonderful.
celebrated
Wonderful.
you know the blessing of the second child not so long ago. I think about a month ago.
Beautiful.
And yeah, now we live in the dusty streets of Johannesburg with a family
Concrete
of
jungle.
4. The concrete jungle, my friend. Yes, yes.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's well done, dude. It sounds like you've gone through a good journey. And I'm pretty sure that there were hurdles, challenges,
Sure.
opportunities of growth along the way. What
Or
were
a
what were
couple,
some of
man.
those challenges that you can remember needed you
And
or
this is
required you? Yeah, that kind of maybe needed you or required you to, to reframe certain things. Rethink your approach, maybe
mm,
even your personal identity. Just where you were at and
yeah.
what you were trying to achieve.
I mean, I think challenges, everyone will have challenges, right? But I've always tried to deconstruct my life, and like I don't know why, like I still try to figure out till this day, but anytime my life is sort of like normal,
Mm,
I always see it as a point of like, hey man, like you need to deconstruct this because it's not going to be sustainable. Like life should always have hurdles. So what I mean by that is, from a young age, I've always been like one of a kind. Like I dream a lot. And so like I'll have these, very vivid dreams about what it is I need to do. As a child, I think I was about 7 when I dreamt of just building up a tree house on a bamboo tree. Or those eucalyptus trees, like it's quite tall. So it doesn't make sense
yeah,
to even build a structure on that thing, let
yeah.
alone the fact that I don't even have tools. So those are
But the
some of the
dream is
things that
strong.
it's strong, bro. It was so strong. Like I would see it. Like I would see myself actually building this thing, pack up like my 2 tools. And when I say tools, I mean like
Mm.
2 sticks and a stone or whatever.
And you were on a mission.
I was on a mission, bro. So that's how I've always sort of been in life. And I think it's both, like I always call it like a curse and a blessing at the same time, because I
Yeah.
always see the bright side of everything. Like
Mm.
at that point that I'm saying that, like I'm not taking into consideration the fact that, hey, we've been having like pop and soup, like Norox for the last like 2 months, right? Like that's, for
Mm.
me, that's
Yeah.
normal because, I've got my other friends that are going through the same thing.
Makes sense.
I'm not taking into consideration that, hey, man, like, you know, you've just discovered that you're poor as an example, because I always call it discovery, because you don't know until you get to that point that, hey, actually, you poor. So, so growing up and having that abundant mindset, and I vividly remember my cousins as well that we grew up with. by the way, visiting them means I have to cross a river.
Right.
And, our time together was just so magical that I never thought for a moment that there's something wrong with this, or like, hey, there's like life that is much better than the life that you're living. And so I think the challenges that I faced in life, more of them were me coming to terms with what reality meant.
Okay.
It's you being invited to that birthday party by some miracle, right? Like, one of your
Yeah.
family members knows someone, and
Right.
getting there and understanding that, hey, like other parents are bringing their kids with cars. Like that's not normal. It's you realizing like, hey, when you get there, there's an expectation that you've got 2 rands to buy yourself popcorn.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all of those things that you learn. And I think
Yeah.
over time, you know, too many of them actually ends up hindering, or it messes up with your confidence, right? Like, because now right? Even though, we don't expect you to do anything about it. You're young.
Mm. Mm.
But
Yeah.
again, going back to the things that I've been trying to build, it's sort
Mm.
of important for me to be rich. you know, that's how I've always viewed my life. And so I was one of those optimistic kids, just always wanting to learn, to do more, be more. I think at some point also frustrating my father, right? Because he's a hardworking man.
Mm.
And so when you have your son coming, by the way, I'm the firstborn, your son coming in and saying,
Okay.
"Hey, Dad, you know, I think um, I think I want to live in Bloemfontein. Hey, Dad,
Mm.
I think I want to buy a car. Like, hey, man, like you're a lot, right? Like, this life is not what you think it is." So I think those were some of my just growing up and realizing what reality really meant, and
Yeah.
having to recalibrate what I thought
Yeah.
about life and where I thought I was. And so it shows up in your marriage, it shows up in your work, it shows up everywhere, right? Like,
Right.
even in my marriage, I think, my wife will complain about this sometimes, where I have a mindset of abundance. And so if we try to achieve something in my head, no, we've got the means to get there. So why don't we
Yeah.
just do it?
Mm.
Whereas my wife
Mm.
is like,
Mm. Mm.
quite the frugal kind, like, hey, hang on, like, weigh the options.
Yeah.
Like, what are we trying to do here? No, I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
go,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Assess the risk.
So I always looked at my life and said, I'm trying to get from A to B. Like,
Mm.
it does not matter what needs to be happening in the middle. Like, we'll figure it out. And so these are just some of the things that you have to, I guess, or at least I've learned to be more empathetic about, understand, hey, man, like, you actually probably coming from a
Yeah.
place of trauma.
Yeah.
You need to think about things in a
True.
different way, but also quite a blessing, man, because not a lot of people are able to make it out of those circumstances and just, you know, do okay. It's it
Yeah.
it's actually
Yeah.
quite a blessing as well.
That's it. That's amazing, and that I think there's a lot of interesting little points that you sort of shared with us there. I think
Yeah.
the one that I'm wanting to sort of maybe double click in a little bit is the relationship with your father. How would you
Yeah.
describe it in terms of,
It's
you know, it just what the
yeah.
experience was, how he was, what you potentially learned from him?
Mm,
How was that relationship?
oh man, quite incredible. I think, I am more like my father, and so you can imagine there would be a lot of misunderstandings as you grow up. The only difference between me and my dad is that I'm a little bit more outspoken. My dad loves his space and all of those things. But growing up, he was always there. When I remember my father, I remember someone that I went to go buy Schweppes with, like a bottle of
Mm,
Coke with. I remember someone that I fixed his cars with, because he always wanted to teach me stuff. So my dad taught me hard labor. And so whether the relationship is a bit interesting is I never loved hard labor. So I mean, you can see like my background, like it's all tools and all sorts of heavy
Uh,
machinery things.
it's a good representation of a man cave. I love it.
And this is all him, right? Whereas I wanted the soft life. Hey, dad, like, I don't understand why it is I need to cut wood when somebody could do it for me. So I think it took a bit of time, him understanding where I was and some of the things I wanted to do. But yeah, man, my dad has always been supportive. Look, he was tough. Like, I got a little bit of a clap there, like any other, child coming from a proper, well-established black family. But in terms of what he was always trying to do for me, it's always been steering me in the right direction and teaching me the right principles, when it comes to life. I can mention one. He used to take me outside and say, here's a shovel, like dig a hole, and then I'll dig the hole. And like halfway in between, I'm exhausted, right? Like I'm a baby, man. I'm like 9, 10 years old. And then he would just say, "Wa utlwa ho thata jwang fatshe mo?" Translation, you see how tough it is here on this earth. And he would do that relentlessly, like once a month or so. And only now, as I'm older, I understand what he was saying. So it's those
Just trying to
nuggets of
teach you.
wisdom that he would exactly. So the relationship now is even like way better because now I call him and I say, "Hey, man, remember that problem that you were struggling with the drill bit? Like, I actually figured out what's the best way of doing it." So we talk in the same language, we have the same problems, and so it just made the relationship even stronger. That's one aspect of my life that I'm super thankful for.
Amazing. I think that's it's really special, to have that kind of an experience,
Yes.
with your father. And I think just given our understanding how rare that is,
Exactly.
to have that kind of experience with your father. What we're dealing with in the world is a huge amount of fatherless homes, and what I
Exactly.
believe is
Exactly.
a major contributor to what we see now and we experience in terms of society. This major breakdown in society that a lot of that focus is on men not necessarily being able
Absolutely.
to really adapt, really fit in, and a lot of the stuff that we've already started unpacking.
Mm.
So I think really for you to share that that's something that you really benefited from, I think it's important to understand how important it is to have a father,
Absolutely, bro.
lives
Absolutely.
as
Yeah.
men. Um, yeah,
And I
I
think it's
think
also
it's
like the
something I really
nucleus
agree with.
families, the nucleus family is broken in some sense, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
cool anymore to have a nucleus family. It's like,
Mhm.
like I actually saw something today that was not funny, but I found
Yeah,
it interesting where, this there's a wife and a husband and they both motivating themselves, right? The wife is looking at
right.
themselves in the mirror like, you look amazing. You don't go after, you attract everything amazing. You are everything you think you are,
Whoa, I want that.
right? That's what I thought until I saw the man motivating himself. And I actually, found more relation with the man because he was saying, you know, like nobody cares about you. Like, you're the
Yeah.
bloodline of your family. You need to be doing more. Like nobody, I don't even like
Okay.
you. Push more. You got to push more because you've got this weight. So do more. Like, and I actually saw the contrast between the two, right?
Right.
Which is, you know, you don't think about like your drive and what you need to do as being kinder to yourself. Like we hardly think about it that way. You always think I need to be tougher than I am now. And so
Yeah.
there's a little bit of you can't change it. You can't be I can't be my wife, right? So I'm not going to go do the whole you look beautiful. Like part of me needs to do that, but like it's not that important for me. I need to be kinder to myself, but the direction of the motivation is still how do you become a better man to actually take care of your families? Being able to have that role model in my life who, when the going gets tough, makes a plan was
Yeah.
super important. So if you ask me, when anyone says like disadvantaged home or whatever, like I think I come from the most advantaged home because I had that relationship with my father. I had that relationship with my mother. And so that role model figure is so important. Like the father is that person that tells you, hey, you fell, like good for you, like get up,
Yeah.
it's probably going to
Yeah.
happen again. Let's just do it safe this time. So it's still, something that I live with to say I also need to be a good father and role model, a father figure to my kids as well.
I love that. I love that. And I like where I think the perspective that you're bringing,
Mm.
I think in my head I was about to say the privilege, which maybe there is an element of
Privilege, my friend.
privilege.
It is. It
It
is.
is an element of privilege, but I think it's, the benefit that you are able to speak on, uh, that
Mm.
comes with, being brought up in a house that has a father and a mother.
Exactly.
I mean, I've been also just sort of seeing quite a lot of information content and news
Mm.
of this actual societal issue, of these single homes that so
Yeah.
many of the younger generation is coming up in, right? I mean, it's
Mm.
not even just the younger generation. I think it's always been a problem, but a lot of the societal
Yeah.
problems that we're facing today are from a direct result of being brought up in homes that don't have both
100%.
parents in. And I think there's a bit of a war, if I may place it that way, in terms of, look, the reality is, and this is where I stand with this, is that I absolutely believe it is far better for any child to be brought up in a nucleus home, right, than a single home. Yes, the reality is that single parents, and I'm not even gonna sort of distinguish between female and male in this, just single parents,
Mm.
they find themselves with no choice but to, you know, raise their children as single parents.
Yes.
And I believe that there is a distinct disadvantage that comes with that. And I think that is what I'm referring to, is what we are seeing a lot of. You know,
Yes.
and I think that understanding is slightly getting muddied in terms of it almost being accepted as it's actually okay that a child absolutely can grow up in a single parent home and be 100%
Yes.
okay and normal.
Yes.
I don't know. I struggle a little bit with that sort of point of view or
It's not
argument.
okay.
I think it's absolutely essential, to have that. And I think, again, what you're bringing is that insight, especially from a male perspective, of how important it is, to have that father figure, or to have had that father figure that
Yeah.
brings out that part
Absolutely.
of you that essentially becomes your survival
Yeah.
toolkit, provided
Yeah.
by your father, right? And I
Mm.
believe a lot of the life lessons that we need as fathers or as men are directly from our fathers, right? Just as much as from our mothers, there are certain lessons and tools and sort of preparation that is passed
Exactly.
on that allows us to thrive in life. So the best of
Exactly.
both worlds is ultimate.
It's pretty, I'm going to use strong words here, but I think it's pretty selfish to think that my child doesn't need my wife, that I am enough. I think if the circumstances were that she isn't there, then, I need to overcompensate. But, it's one of those things where you bring a child into this world, and I was fortunate that I got that, blessing of like, yeah, hey, my dad is here, my mom is here, and they teach me all these things. I think it's important to be a bit selfless in terms of thinking about happiness, as happiness means I'm okay. Happiness means I'm happy. It means I'm I'm living my best life. Like sometimes it means I am fulfilling my responsibilities. Like sometimes it means, I brought this child onto this earth and therefore I'm able to do what's right by them. And so that's why I think it hurts me a lot, like especially now. I mean, you probably know someone, I know someone, everyone knows someone that's going through this where, hey, this is not working. Like, I'm not happy. So I was fortunate, right, to like get perspectives of both.
Yeah.
I think one thing I think of that's difficult for men now is and women, what does it mean to bring a child onto this earth, and what responsibilities do you have to instill on the child versus the other partner? And I still believe two's better than one. Like I stand to be corrected on that. Like two is better than one, and the moment there's a third person in the picture, I think it's no longer about just me and you. In fact, only a small portion is about me and you. Not to say, don't, like, I'm not saying like guys don't be bringing flowers and all of those things, but I just think, life and the perspective that you have about life sort of changes. Like it's no longer just about me and my G's like going out. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's about like, hey, sometimes I'm going to suck at certain things just so I can fix this family side of things because it's the most important thing ever, because God blessed me with this amazing, and I know I'm bringing like Christian vibe here, but like God blessed me with
Okay.
this responsibility that it's no longer just about me. Because and I'm able to say this because I got the blessing, right? Like I was able to be raised in a home where the father was there, the mother was there, and here's the thing about nucleus, right? It's not, well, this is my biological mother, this is my biological father. But I just think the figures are important
Yeah. And the role they play.
and the role they play, right? Like sometimes it's played by an uncle. I just think as a man, it's super important to acknowledge the responsibility. Because you made a CEO
Absolutely agree with you.
without experience. It's like from intern to CEO. Now here's life, you need to take care of it. Much of what their life is going to be and turn out to be is dependent on what you do. And so it's a huge responsibility, in my view, that I think if I had to grade my dad, husband, I'd probably give him a 5 or a 4. But, as a father, I'd definitely give him a 10.
I find that
Yeah.
interesting as well, which I'd like to sort of unpack. But I think before that, where we are at is the importance of acknowledging and owning the responsibility of life that we bring in to this world. And again, we know that, you know, uh, I mean, I don't have the stat. I probably should look for it. I'll probably get it now. But
Yeah.
a very large number of households around the world, are fatherless homes.
Yeah.
And I think it's particularly in this country as well. It's
Yeah.
really something that is a problem, and
Mm.
I, I remember having a lot of these conversations with my partner, um, around, and I've always just asked this question, which I hope on this journey that I'm on, that I'll eventually start getting the answer. But I always wondered to myself, what is it, or what is the reason why any man would not want to take care of their child, right?
Yeah.
Look, granted, there are, and I'm not going to make any excuses for them, but I mean, I know that there are challenges, right? I know
Yeah.
like finance plays a big role. I know disputes, divorce disputes, or just couple disputes can really get in the way of parenting.
Mm.
Choice sometimes is taken away, but I think that's probably like the minority of the reasons.
Yeah.
I think what I witness, and I have witnessed over life, or my experience of life, is that there just really is and I'm going to be very, very frank about this, is that
Yeah.
I noticed that there's a lot of men that simply just don't care, that simply
Mm.
just don't take that responsibility on, because either they just, as I said, they don't care, or I don't know. This is what I'm trying to get into. Is it maybe because of a lack of understanding or being taught by their father, experience of being raised by their father, that there is this acceptance that I can produce a child, and I then can sort of almost wash my hands because it's the woman's job or responsibility to then raise that child.
Mm.
So it really plagues me because I really want to really understand what is it that men are thinking. I don't know
Yeah.
what you think or what your views are on that.
Hey man, I don't know, but what I can say is that's a tough one, right? But I think men generally hold a macro view and women hold a micro view. That's how I sort of made it make sense for myself. Is that when you're going through something and like a tea bag, like I think, life tests you with adversities and that's where you really get to see how you think. Uh, a woman a woman might think, I need to feed the baby now. I need to I need to put the pacifier. I need to do like that. They're able to be there. As I will be out in the garage, like mapping out the next path, or that's just how we
Mm,
operate. Like we operate at a macro level. Like, hey, you know, this house might not get paid in the next like 2 months or whatever. Like you thinking macro with everything. Like you may actually miss out on the fact that, hey, a child actually just needs food right now.
right.
And I think, and the reason why I'm pointing this out is it might make sense to why it's easier for men to potentially not be there, right? Not making an excuse for it. I think how we raised as well. Like, I mean, if you look in black communities, man, like, women are gonna go look after the kids. Like, we're gonna go, I don't know, to the mines or something. Um,
Mm,
they even, men will even advise you, like, hey, you can't be too into women's stuff. Like, you gotta chill with men. And so it sort of creates that separation between what men are doing and what women are doing. And sometimes, like, all you need to do really is just to give your child a hug. Like, you just need to be there. You need to pick them up from school. Those things that you think are tiny actually
mm,
mean so much. And I think largely it's how we think that makes men more susceptible to, we're not caregivers, like naturally. Like my son right now, he's got colic. I just look at him and I think, like, dude, come on, like, you know, you can handle this. You're a man. By the way, the guy is like a month old,
yeah.
but that's just like how I towards him. And not to say it's a good thing, but it just shows how we think differently. And so sometimes deconstructing your own thinking
Mm,
helps to say like, hey, this is how I'm thinking about things, but this is not the only perspective, right?
yeah.
There's another perspective that I need to tap into. Let me talk to my
Right.
wife. Let me see what she thinks. How's she feeling? What does she think is going on?
Mm,
It actually helps. But again, to your point of, here are all these babies that are being born, and you had a moment, and now a baby's born, and now they're on this earth. I think I think it's a pretty selfish thing, man, to put yourself in that, like, first in that situation and say like, how am I feeling? Like, is this good for me? Is this not good for me? How was I taught? Like, I think I said, CEO, no experience.
mm,
You need multiple perspectives.
yeah.
No one chooses to be born.
Mm,
You made that. You did that. So you need to take responsibility and educate yourself. You need to get yourself from intern to C very
mm,
quickly, because it's really not about you. The
mm,
moment you bring a life onto this earth, it's no longer about you. I mean, it's partly about you, like your cup needs to be full, but it can't just be about you and how you feel and you know.
mm, mm. I actually 100% agree with you. I think there absolutely needs to be a big shift um, in men when it comes to this particular topic.
Yeah.
Because I mean, look, as we said earlier on, there can be many reasons why we see this kind of crisis, and I'm going to continue calling it because it is.
Yeah.
And we can probably dive deep into why and where, and it was how they were taught, or it was lack thereof of being taught, of being nurtured. The stigmas that we all generally have been brought up with, and when I say all, as guys, men that have been brought up with, which is, as you touched on one of them, you would actually be called out for spending too much time with the female counterpart, right? You would be ridiculed, if you spend too much
Yeah.
time with girls or played with girls too much, Let's not even go to what, the consequences would be emotionally if you were playing with girls' toys, or, dressed up as a girl, or, just going through your normal
Yeah.
explorative mind as a child. Like, the line was very, very much drawn very clearly that
But
was
Zooks,
not what you needed to
can
do.
I
And that was
can I
a no.
can I take it a step further? What do girl kids do? They play with dolls, right? Like in like house. They learn to take care of like a baby. Like I wasn't
Hmm,
bought a baby when I was young, bro. Like I was bought cars and like, you know, like all
that's a
sorts of
good point.
things. So they're learning how to be married and have a child. You're learning how to like ride cars fast and build
Old
random stuff.
stuff. Yeah.
So even just the upbringing is like super different. You don't
Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you're deprived of it. I was having this conversation the other day. It's even with relationships, right? So and
Exactly.
we know what the divorce rate is like. We know that how low the success rate is in terms of relationships.
Yes.
But I was saying this, that like we are so ill prepared, right, for important experiences of life, right? Like you said, like
Yep.
we've touched on fatherhood, um, husband or boyfriend, emotional relationships and connections. We were completely starved of that in our upbringings, most of them. And we're obviously generalizing, that we almost have no business going into those kinds of attachments, or connections, or
Yep.
experiences in life, because we are continuously on the back foot. We walk in on the back, being on the back foot. You know,
Yep. We know nothing about it.
um, and it's like, yeah, and like I think you said it earlier on. It's like we got to almost like learn on the fly. And I like your comparison that when you bring it down to just the small things that we maybe took for granted, but they definitely play a role. Like, girls generally were taught from a very young age, you know, that how to nurture, how to feed the baby doll, cook the food in the evening, right? And I know a lot of this becomes a touchy subject, but it's the fact that
Yeah.
that happened why they're so successful, or much better at this kind of thing in life, where
Yes.
it is very evident that where we struggle and where a lot of the problems are coming from, in terms of men, it's because we don't have that experience. It's a very true aspect, that I like that representation, or that connection there. Um, but I think it doesn't sort of. I think maybe then it moves into, how does one change that?
Yeah.
How does one bring awareness to, especially those that, as we say, they don't have that understanding, they haven't
Yeah.
got that teaching, and we're faced with this issue of fatherless
Yeah.
homes, or fathers not being present, fathers not knowing how. How does one sort of address that? How do we change it? Especially in this day and age where we have a lot of access to information.
Hey man, it's out there.
I think it's super tough, because if you think about it, because the other thing that we haven't mentioned in the reasonings is cultural
Yes.
expectations.
But you see, that's why I'm saying you need to deconstruct your thinking, man, because it's not accurate. Like you coming into like anytime you think about something, you need to remember that culture is a contextual thing. Like I had this conversation with one of my uncles because we had a funeral, and they were saying, look, back in the day, like, we would wait for the rest of the family to be here before we do anything. And I said culture is context because there was a time where you couldn't wait for people because we didn't have fridges and stuff to have the body in. And so that changed. Over time, we got fridges. And so that means we need to change our perspective. It's not that we have to wait for, just a day and then we bury the body. Now we've got fridges, so we can wait longer.
Yeah.
So anything that was decided as a custom, it was because of a circumstance. So if you don't apply first principles thinking to what could have been the reason why we did this, then you're going to find yourself in trouble because you're going to be doing things that were done in the 1900s with a different context. And so, the reason why I say deconstruct your thinking, I know my wife is way better at this other stuff, like, what the baby needs and all of those things, like her relationship with the baby. I'm going to lean on her for that. There's certain things that I'm better at. Like when it comes to survival, my wife knows, I'll make a fire out of nothing. So what's your strength? What's mine? We're building a home here. There's certain things that you just have to just deconstruct it. Like it's not that deep. You don't have to hold your truth up over anyone's truth. Like sometimes, yes, it was correct in that, in that day and age, but it might be different now.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you, and I hear you on that. I always get stuck in this thinking because especially the cultural one, because I think culturally, there's a level of respect and understanding that I can extract from, for example, being taught, as our elders have led by example, that, there are certain things, like to your point, that you are meant to do and meant to understand and be capable in as a man. And there are certain things that you should not be worrying about or dabbling with that belong to the woman in terms of their responsibilities and what they do. I think I would like to believe that that comes from a genuine understanding of, and I want to use the sort of these terms, the strengths and weaknesses and differences between male and female. Liked to believe that when our grandfathers and great grandfathers were teaching us our role as a man, it's because it came from wisdom of understanding.
Yes.
What our strengths were, what our capabilities were, and how those would then feed into the greater good of your family and beyond that, society as a whole, So I'd like to believe that essentially is where it came from.
Yeah.
And the intentions were good. But I think at the same time, where we are now, we can definitely identify the drawbacks, the implications, right? Of perhaps it being too extreme, right? And I think, like to your point, that times have changed, right? Perhaps in those days, those teachings were very applicable because the roles that were played and how life generally operated was in line with those teachings. Where today, for example, if we bring in the economic, a single income household today is extremely challenging to maintain, right? So to have one man, right, or a man of the house being the only person bringing in an income, and the woman being at home raising the kids, etc. That kind of construct or setup today is very challenging and it's almost impossible unless you're extremely successful, obviously making a lot of money.
Yeah.
But in your general sense of standard of living, that is, it's not the same as the old days. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
You need that dual income, and therefore the roles then need to adjust, adapt. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
From both sides.
And I mean, we there's this thing in education where, we say, it's more important to teach competency than to teach assessments. So, you can have a learner come in and like they were trained on like how to be so amazing at these tests, but at the same time, they don't have the competency.
Right.
So if you think about like cultural teachings as well, there's a competency thing with it, where competency means understanding why that custom is a custom.
Yes.
And if you don't understand why, and you just adopt it for what, like, oh, they just told me a man, has to be absent because, they shouldn't be with women for a long time. That's not competency. That's just like, if you wrote a test, you'd pass it.
Yeah.
But if you're competent in understanding why that's the case, then you will be able to adapt and adjust with changing times. Because to your point, now my woman is working. Am I expecting her to wash like the dishes all the time? Am I expecting her to clean after me? Am I expecting her to like be the house? Like, no, it doesn't make sense, right? Like that's the point where you have to reevaluate and say, hey, given where we are, a couple of things have to change. And the other thing is, you may find that the teaching in the custom, for example, and I'll tell you with me, I'm one avid believer that a man is a provider. Like when I say to my wife, oh, don't worry about it, I got it covered. The happiness that brings is very different from the happiness when she says it. I promise you that. Like when I say, oh, don't worry, the bills are all covered. It's not the same. Women, like, and I stand to be corrected, like women don't feel the same as when you say it. Right? Because what else are you going to do, man? Like, you're not going to, carry a baby for 9 months in your belly. Like, you're not going to, there's so many things that you're not going to be able to do. Right? So what's your virtue? What's the thing that you do that makes you proud and happy? And so, like, I'm proud of that to the point where I feel my wife working is her privilege. Like, sort of like, my money's our money, your money's your money. So do it, so that like, if it makes you happy, like go do it by all means. But it's something that I always strive to do, to make sure that I am the person that protects the family. Because even though we get all of these, different thought leadership about the role of a man and a woman, at the end of the day, I told my wife this. I said, if somebody holds a gun up to us, I'm dying first. And it's not even a discussion. Like, if I'm in the bedroom and there's a weird noise downstairs, we don't sit and say, hey, hang on, like I went there last Saturday.
Yeah.
No, it's your turn now. It's implied that I'm going down there. So that by its very nature, and hence I'm saying I stand to be corrected. Like somebody just told me like, hey, we discuss these things. That's not a discussion. Anytime my family is in danger, I die first. And that's a responsibility that I took as a man.
And I really understand that. And I agree as a fellow man that it is almost in an innate knowing and understanding within ourselves, within me as a man, that is my role and that is what I need to do. It does not change the fact that I'm scared.
It doesn't.
In that moment, I'm still scared. I'm still like, God damn, I wish I didn't, man, and
bro,
I mean, the reality is that we're still human, and it's still
absolutely,
it's still very scary to have to.
Is there a part of you that feels like your significant other should go do that work, or that your child should do that work?
No. No, and
You
actually,
see,
also just to build on your point is in that moment, as much as I'm saying you're scared and stuff, you're so in protective mode, right? Because that is again innate. That's what you know. You
exactly.
got your family, your wife next to you, your kids in the other room, and there's some sort of threat that you know that your attention has been drawn to. We
Exactly.
go straight into protector mode, and we go and
That's
we
it.
sometimes maybe are stupid and we throw ourselves at the situation, but it's all in the name of, you know, protecting my family, which is
Exactly.
something that is innate. It's really, it's in it's our default
Then,
to do that.
so
Yeah.
those are the values that you do not compromise on. Like, let's
Right.
understand
Yeah.
that from the get go. Let's understand that,
Yeah.
you know, there are things that a woman is going to do that you wouldn't even think of doing. Like, oh my goodness, thank God I don't have to go into like a surgery room to go like give birth. There's just certain things that like are innate.
Mm.
And so those are
Yeah.
foundations with which we
Yeah.
cannot even debate on. Like, I'm the
Yeah.
protector and I'm going to
Right.
protect my family at all cost.
Mm.
So
Mm.
those form the basis of how you build your home, not
Mm.
a custom that says a man is not going to spend that much time with their wife or woman. That is
Mm.
not,
Mm.
that's not innate at all.
Yeah.
So if you miss out on the competency, you're going to end up taking a custom,
Mm.
adopting it, and then it's not going to
Yeah.
work for you.
Absolutely. I also want to just take it a little bit back to um, the sense of value that a man feels, you know, when they are playing their role, right? Or are
Yes.
able to execute and play their role, whether that's providing, protecting,
Yes.
etc. I think what I think is a struggle that men face is when they are unable to do that. Right. So let's use provider as an example, because I think this is something that a lot of men are struggling with
Mm-hmm.
today, and it's this war within themselves, as coming off of what we've just sort of spoken on.
Mm.
You know, the reality is that economically it's tough, especially today, right? It's really, really tough. A
Yeah.
lot of guys are not able to get jobs, right? Or if they are in a job, it's a job that is very unsatisfying, underpaid.
Mm.
Um, and at the same time, they have this very strong expectation of themselves to still maintain that role and that value add as a man and a provider for their family, but they are unable to, right? And when they find themselves in that situation or in that position, again, a lot of men are in that position. I think it is probably part and parcel of why I think there's a lot of trouble or problems in relationships,
Absolutely.
because men, they actually just don't know how to deal with that, to be very honest.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that one of the things you said, they're unable to adapt. That maybe at this point in time in my life, I'm unable to do that thing. I'm unable to play that role, you know, and I'm going to need to lean on my wife or my girlfriend, etc. That then brings their ego into play, right? Because that then also then just, I mean, as you can imagine, just really, there's no, it's just, there's no way to almost accept that as much
Yeah.
as you need to, and you need to adapt, and that your partner, hopefully you have that kind of relationship that's strong enough for there to be an understanding to say like, hey babe, I can't at this point in time, and I need you to, you know, to I need to tap you in, right? You know, so that I can figure things out. I think men are really challenged in being able to speak out or have that kind of communication with
Yeah.
their partners, and so they turn to all this rubbish that we see.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it goes back to the competency thing, but like parts of it does, because you adopted a set of customs because you understood why it was important. I think as men, it's very easy to go rogue when things go bad,
Mm.
because at that point, what do you think? It's like, let me just go have a drink. Like,
Yeah,
let me,
it's usually where it starts. Yeah.
yeah, like I'm a man, right? Like I'm gonna have a drink and I'll forget all about these problems. You don't even think you'll forget about the problems. You just want to numb the pain sometimes.
Just want to numb the pain. Yeah.
And then it becomes, this thing that's like just spiraling down. Ultimately, man, like you start bringing in all of those bad customs, and like they're not bad customs. It's just because you don't have competency in them. You just bring them in as like men stay alone, like men go hibernate.
Go silent.
Exactly. But actually, that, a man gates you have to gate or man the gates of your home. So you're the first sacrifice. And to be the first sacrifice means you must be, you have to stand tall, man. You have to take it in. Like you are the sacrifice. So when things go bad, I always say like, yes, sometimes it's like difficult and like you end up in these bad habits and whatever, but are you doing what's right? Like just ask yourself, like, am I doing, when I say I'm going for that interview, am I really going for the interview? Or am I just going to go hang out with my friends and have a beer, numb the pain? Am I training hard enough? Am I going out there hard enough? Are you doing the right thing?
Mm.
Because only like, like we don't know. You tell us, hey man, like I'm struggling, I'm going through this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got now a new girlfriend just to make yourself feel good. Like we don't know that, right? We just know, hey, this guy's struggling. Like he's, and like, again, I'm going to go Christian here, Eve was given some, punishments. Two of them, actually. Your relationship with your man will be difficult. You will bear kids. What was Adam given? I remember one had to do with, the land you farm will be difficult to farm. You will live off of your sweat. And then the third one was you will die, of death. Like you will go back to your maker through death. The point is your sweat will be what feeds you. And the land that you farm will be hard to farm. So it will be difficult for you to make money. It will be difficult for you to make a living. It's your punishment, right? So, you now faced with this punishment, what are you doing? Hey man, are you sobering up? Are you training a bit more? Are you trying to stay healthy? Are you trying to keep your, because ultimately what you don't do is going to filter into your relationship with your woman. Like that thing that you are not doing. And I think as men, we have to sit down and be honest with ourselves to say, when you're going through the most, that's not the time to be indulging in pleasure. That's not the time to be forgetting your problems. That's the time to be facing those things head on. And, you get that strength through other men that have went through that. And, you have honest conversations. Like my friend is coming and telling me, hey, yeah, like, yeah, I've got a side, man. Like, but like, that's not the problem. The problem is this. No, like, hang on. Like, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing right now in this season of hardship? And the season of hardship is hardship, man. Like, you need to be going through it. You are the one that needs to be. You are the chosen one to mend the gates of your home. So, are you facing it honestly and introspecting and saying, what am I not doing? Because as much as I hate saying this, man, I really hate saying this because I think, sometimes women like, hey, they've got their problems, man. I've just been taught to look at the man first. Like I look at myself first.
Yeah.
How am I leading? Like how am I leading? How is my leadership? And so I think honesty amongst each other, like as men, like let's just sit down and have honest conversations. Like, hey man, that may look small, what you're doing, but you're
It's
going
not
through a tough
serving
time.
you.
You should be,
Yeah.
it's not serving you.
It's not serving
I
you.
love that.
Yeah.
It's not serving.
I love what you're saying because it's a very much a hot topic for me on this journey that I'm on now and this platform and this channel. And that is, as men, we don't speak to each other, right? Man, we don't speak to anybody. Let's just put it there as the
Maybe
bigger
let's say
picture.
two things. First of all, we don't
Yeah,
speak to each other. And then second
yeah,
of all, we're not honest with each other.
I love that, and I really want to hone in on that. on those 2 points, right? So starting with the we just don't speak to each other. I think I said it in my previous conversation that the irony in that is, you know, the the struggles, the issues, the challenges that we typically face, right? Most likely is what most, generally speaking, most guys are facing. So it only
Yes.
makes sense that speaking with another guy, all right, if you're not sort of ready to take on professional help, the therapists and all that sort of stuff, therapy and all that sort of stuff, another man is probably the best person then to have that conversation with, right?
Yeah.
Because they most likely have the experience, right? They most likely are able to empathize, hear you, advise, or just even just comfort. Again, because we're still human, right? Fuck this
Mm.
whole I'm a man shit and whatever. Empathize. You say, damn, dude, that's really hard. I'm
Yeah.
also going through that shit. You're not alone. That
Yeah.
support is so important and so valuable when it comes from another guy. I know this from my
Absolutely.
own experience and others that have actually maybe that do speak, how powerful it is. But the irony is that we don't do it.
Yeah.
And then I think the second one to the point you made as well is that we're not honest. We're just not honest. I like the example you used. Somebody comes up to a guy comes up to us. Usually it's always a friend or somebody we know, and they speak. They they let me just be direct. They talk nonsense, right? Or they share something that is absolutely rubbish. It's crap. Whether it's a behavior or something they've done or didn't do, or like we just don't have that ability, or I don't know if it's ability or courage or just balls, let's be more appropriate, to be able to call that person out, to say, no, dude,
All
you say
out
you
the
got a side
BS.
chick, but you got a wife, you got a kids at
Yeah.
home. What
And you
makes
said
you
you don't
think
have
that
money.
is a
You
good
just said
idea?
you don't have money.
And you said you don't have money. You know, you know how
Yeah.
expensive these girls are these days.
True. True.
We don't.
And I think it's also like it's a pride thing, right? Like, because we men
Mm,
carry pride, man. It's like, I'm not gonna go tell another man, like, my house is leaking or whatever.
yeah, it's rubbish. Yeah, I get it though.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think I really value that point, and it's probably part of what I implore, or at least will try influence is that understanding, or at least ability to take the opportunity to speak to other men. At the least.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that's also part of what this platform is about. Is like, for example, now. I mean, I think you've brought an amazing perspective. Um, that is I want to say unique, but it's a perspective that is unusual, right? And in the
Yeah.
terms of the upbringing that you've had and approach, and it comes through. I mean, we can tell that how you approach life and how you understand life and how you sort of deal with life. It's a lot of advantageousness that comes from typically the background that you have. And for me, other men hearing this is so important.
Yeah. And just remember as well, I gave my dad like a 4 when it came to marriage, right? Because
You did,
you
huh?
know I gave him a 4. So like I guide him on certain things. I remember my sister when she was pregnant, like I called my dad and I said, hey man, like just boil some water, like make some warm water and whatever, and like
Mm.
put it in the basin, just like massage my little sister's feet. They love that stuff. It was so foreign to my dad. The whole experience was just so foreign. Um,
Mm.
because that's the one area that I know he's like not good at.
Right.
So I took from him the things that I value, and I think these are like core competencies and whatever. But there's certain things like I don't just take everything, right? It's just the things that I know works and basing them on foundations. Like, why would I be doing this? I would be doing this because
Mm.
I need to protect my family. I need to make sure that they're well off and they Like my
Mm.
my wife needs to be in a good mental state. And what are some of the things that would like, make her depressed? It's like knowing that a house is not paid or electricity is not paid. That's like, Maslow's law or Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm going to make
Yeah.
sure that I handle the baseline so that
Mhm.
we can argue about the other, like, top level things. So, you know, I still do think a lot of men do struggle with, including me, by the way. Like, I'm not honest with my friends.
Of course.
Part of mine will come to me and say something, and I'll focus on making him feel better first,
Mm.
which is absolute
Mm.
BS. Like, I'll not say, hey,
Mm.
man, like, you told me two things. You think one is like a problem, but two, my man,
Yeah.
you gotta get your act in order. I'll not say that.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
I've got that fault as well, where as men,
Mm.
we want the shiny and amazing things, but we don't want to be told the truth.
Yeah.
The worst thing you
No, we
can do is tell
don't.
a man
Yeah.
the truth. It's like the weirdest thing ever. It's like,
It's crazy. I think it's
whatever.
absolutely
Like,
crazy.
yeah. Like, we don't want to hear anything about us being,
Mm.
like a problem. It's like, hey, man, like,
Mm.
you're a man. You're supposed to understand my
Yeah.
problems.
Correct.
Because I'm speaking to you because,
Correct.
like, I came here thinking that, you're a man and you're going to understand my problems. But, like, here you are being
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a big
Yeah.
thing. It's like, we need to hold each other accountable. Like, that's super important, man. It's like, it's fine to be wrong. It's fine to not have your ducks in a row. Like, it happens like that. In fact, if it doesn't happen, you're doing something wrong, or whatever is coming is bigger
Exactly.
than what you think. So I think number
Mm.
one is like, yeah, it's always good to, be frank and open with your gents, but the gents also have a fiduciary responsibility to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's necessary to make space for that, you know. Um,
Exactly.
and I think I'm going to focus now on the receiver because I think that's where the
Yes.
trouble is more than the lack of courage to speak the truth. I think, and I'm going to speak. I'm not because I don't have stats again. I'm going to speak from my own experience. I think I've experienced attempts from people to be honest, like friends to be honest with me,
Yeah.
but where the biggest problem is or the struggle is me receiving that. Right. And that's why I'm saying I think there needs to be a lot more space made to receive that
Yeah.
by understanding that, you know, and I know we all go through this, is that we all at some point, and for some it might be more often than others, we sit back and go, I don't know what to do. I'm struggling. What do I need to do? Where am I going wrong? You know, as much as we can say, but Mfit, you know what you're doing wrong. Yes, there's parts of us that we know that I shouldn't probably be doing that. But the overall sort of feeling is sometimes overwhelming, you know, and it's like, I
I'm gonna
really just
say
don't know what
something.
to do,
I
you know?
I'm gonna super like,
Yeah.
hey man, this is going
Mhm.
to people, like, but it's fine. Like,
Viral point coming up.
you need to suffer.
Mm.
That's your role. You need to suffer. Like I said, you are the first sacrifice. You need to suffer. The only way to get out of a bad situation is more suffering.
Mm.
Like, at the point where you think, I'm gonna tell you something, or Zooks is gonna tell you something, or your friend is gonna tell you something, that's gonna magically make things amazing. And it's like, that's how you know that's BS. You
Mhm.
need to suffer. Like, this is life. The only way to go up there is to suffer. So, I think as a receiver, the first thing to acknowledge is whatever it is that somebody tells me, if it's good advice, like back in the day was when our parents used to give us medicine and you get like that sour one and, hey, yeah, this one, yeah, 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 sebenza.
Yeah, yeah, well, this one's gonna work. Yeah, this one.
How
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So that sometimes it requires you to sit and like sit with yourself and talk to yourself and like have the uncomfortable discussions.
I like what you're saying. It's profound. It's, at least again from my experience, as someone that in my own assessment of my own life, I've suffered a lot. So a lot of it has been obviously self-inflicted, my own sort of uh, decisions and choices that I've made. But I think everything that if I look at it, if I take a snapshot of where I am today, and and everything that I've learned and gained, all of that has come from the suffering. I think a perspective that was shared with me by my brother while I was suffering, while I was going through some stuff, and it was particularly linked to my divorce that I was going through, was he said to me that, you know what, everything seems very hard right now. Everything feels hard right now. A lot of negative feelings, obviously, are present right now. But there's always good in everything. And it is a matter of just choosing to look for that good or focus on that good. Because it's once you do that and you are able to identify that good, that is when you start moving forward. That is when you start healing or understanding or figuring out, what's next. And I've always been very grateful for him when, and that's what he actually even said to me. Like he didn't take me out and save me or anything. He just gave me that perspective to consider, right? And I think ever since then, I've always actually applied that to every challenge, to every suffering that I've, endured. I've always maintained that there's something good in this, and I need to look for that and find that. And when I do, then I will. Then the suffering makes sense. You know what I mean? I want to thank you so much for bringing how and opening up about your experiences, your truths. Um, what I always believe that this platform is going to do is not just, speak of all the raw, nasty, horrible things, but it's also going to allow us to learn, you know. And I think what you did today is bring a lot of learning, different perspectives, things to think about, as men. Um, and I think that in itself is extremely valuable. And this is exactly why I asked you to come and have this conversation.